Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Nick.
Hey Rob, I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm managing, man. Like we said before, it's one of them touch and go moments. Like someone needs to hug me and put me in the shower and say, "It's gonna be okay, little friend. It's gonna be okay."
I see. Well, hey, I mean, I guess, yeah, after what you told me, I can't blame you. I suppose it must have affected you quite a bit. I'm sure it probably would have affected me too had I been in your shoes. So I can't blame you.
It's like, do I need to even go on anymore, or is life fulfilled? Because I've gotten to do something I never thought of, and I don't want to spoil it for listeners, but it'll be an episode that'll be on here. But Nick, it's about me and your conversation. I want to ask you, have you ever came across anything super weird in life as much as I've come across today?
Well, I think one has not really lived life if one hasn't come across anything either supernatural or weird. I think you're not living your life if it hasn't happened to you, and at least that's my opinion. There have been a few occasions here and there. I mean, if you're talking about, should we say, supernatural things or things that you can't explain, is that what you're asking?
More like I came across not only just what happened today, but the other day I was in a store and a man was screaming and yelling at the fact they didn't have the right bologna. That was his type of bologna. And I was just like, out of all fucking foods to fight over, you chose bologna. It's like I'm starting to realize life is more like a movie than we think. Like if anybody had a camera rolling 24/7, you would catch some pretty awesome shit. Like, oh man, this dude was abrasive as hell over bologna. And I'm like, that's a fucking horrible food to even be mad about.
Well, I guess it depends who you ask, Rob. I mean, there's some folks who are actually mad about bologna, so I suppose it depends kind of, there's like folks who love pineapple on their pizza. Me being Italian, I'm not one of those people, so no. But
Wait,
yeah,
what? Hold on a second. What? No pineapple on the pizza?
no, because I'm Italian, so I'm a purist, so we don't believe in pineapple on pizza.
So you must get really upset when they put Nutella on that motherfucker.
Well, you know what? It's become acceptable because it's considered, should we say, was known as a sweet pizza. So it's not as shocking, but should we say the purists over here in Italy will turn up their noses at pineapple because they're like, that is not how you do Italian pizza, because but it's one of those things, obviously, because among the few decent things that Italy invented, we did invent pizza, and so we don't like people misusing what we created, I guess.
Nutella on a pizza is a fucking crime. Okay. And even if just uttering the word Nutella or eating it in my just distinctive direction, I get upset. It's like mayo. Would you cover your pizza in mayo? I don't think
No,
anybody would.
no, I
That sounds
wouldn't. I
awful.
mean, I wouldn't put Nutella on pizza either. But and as I said, there are folks who do that. But yeah, no, I see where you're coming from. I wouldn't do that either. But as I said, I don't even have anything sweet on my pizza. That's why I think pineapple is just like out totally.
Like, I
I
mean,
want my toppings to be savory, not sweet.
yeah, and if anything, I try and stick to the basic plain. I feel like a nice cheese pizza, like if they do it right, not where like you can take a napkin and dip it on top of the pizza and you can pull up all the grease from it, but like a
Mm.
nice like thick crust pizza. That's why I love Domino's so much. Is that oregano on the crust? Holy shit, that is a science in itself, my brother.
You know what is weird? Only because Domino's has just arrived in Italy. It arrived recently, and those times I would visit the States because often I go to the States for work. Now, obviously, because of COVID, not so much. But my thing was whenever in Nashville, Tennessee, because working in country music, I would order from Domino's, but for the wings, not for the pizza.
The wings. That's a bold choice to order from a pizza place.
I know, but it's the weird. It all goes back to my girlfriend at the time, way back when the first time I visited the States, which was I went to Harrisonburg, Virginia, and she basically introduced me to Domino's, and she ordered wings along with the pizza, right? And I fell madly in love with the wings, and I guess that has kind of stayed with me since that time in Virginia, and so I've kind of made it a tradition whenever I go to the States to order at least once from Domino's and order their wings. I know it's weird. And plus, I'm in Nashville of all places, when I go there, which is the home of good wings. So I know I could do better, I guess.
It's the home of good meats, to be honest with you. It's like
Yep.
whenever I go out or I want to explore something off the menu, like break out of my comfort zone, I just ask the person what would they recommend or what would they get if it was their order. And then I just kind of live my life by this creed of when it arrives, if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. One person's like, well, what I usually get is I just order a 2 liter of Pepsi and that's it. And I'm like, where's the food factor? Like, I'm ordering food. I'm kind of hungry. It's my dinner. He goes, you don't need food. You just need soda. And I'm like, I hear you talking and saying these words, but I'm picturing what you look like and it doesn't match up.
Well, I mean, as I said, I do agree. It is you should have something a little bit substantial when it comes to a meal. I know there are those who, just go with a liquid diet, let's say, but yeah, when it comes to that, yeah, that's I know. And as I said, I mean, Nashville is a fantastic, fantastic city. And you're right, the culture there, also the culinary culture, coming from such a rich culture like over here in Italy, I was very impressed, I must say. It was actually really, really good. I mean, Southern cooking is amazing. That is something I will say every time I get to visit the Southern states. That's something I absolutely love, between the Cajun cooking and all this kind of stuff. It's fantastic. So, but Nashville in general is just a wonderful, wonderful city all around. Have you ever been to Nashville?
I haven't really been out of the States besides like maybe a vacation to Hawaii or a vacation to Vegas. When my grandparents were like, hey, let's travel. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm young. I don't really have a choice in this decision, but I'm down to go as long as I could bring my Xbox. And I never was able to bring my Xbox, sadly.
No, but you guys have a beautiful country over there. I mean, I madly love the States. It's a beautiful, beautiful country, and every time I go, it's always very hard to leave and come back home. I will say that. Funnily enough, the last time I was there was exactly 4 years ago, and it was the night of the presidential election. I was actually there when Donald Trump was elected. So I
Oh,
guess
Lord.
there's that to be said. Yeah.
Would love to travel to another country, but I know it'd be like one of those scenes from Taken where like I would just end up getting lured into a van with like a nice funnel cake. And then I'm kind of like, where'd Robbie go? Well, he went to this
Well,
country and we've never heard from him again.
well, I mean, it also depends where you go. I mean, there are certain countries where they say you should travel with a native of that country. Case in point, like for example, if you ever want to visit Russia, you have to go with a Russian, because they will pretty much screw you over as soon as they find out you're a foreigner and you don't speak the language. You will get screwed. So in fact, those few times I actually even visited Russia was with Russians, and in fact, it's a whole different experience. But other than that, if you ever came to visit Italy, I don't think you'd have too much trouble.
It's
They
just like,
love the they love the Americans. They are huge Americanophiles in Italy. So you just telling them you're American, it's like it's
well,
it's definitely points in your favor.
that kind of leads into your podcast a little bit too, where you're kind of studying cinema. Do you notice a lot of like, are you just analyzing the classics that are American classics, or are you analyzing all forms of films like from everywhere?
Well, basically, when it comes to one of the two podcasts that I do, because I'm kind of visiting movies on both podcasts. When it comes to Gold Standard, the Oscars movie podcast, we are basically going through all the films that won the Oscar for Best Picture chronologically. So we started back in 1927, and now we're going through all of them, and it's all the Best Picture films. So for the majority, they are American. Of course, recently. The latest one to win was a Korean film, so that would be fun when we eventually get there. But yeah, so we're only focusing on the Best Picture winners, and when it comes to our patrons, they might then choose. We allow them to choose the best then favorite nominees or favorite films, so we do that as well. And outside of that, I also host Happiness and Darkness, which is a superhero movie podcast where I'm reviewing all the superhero movies that have come out from all the various houses, be it DC, Marvel, Image, Dark Horse. So doing a bit of that, and those
And Disney just unloaded a shitstorm not even a couple days ago of like, here's everything we're going. I've seen so much hype about it and I have no clue what it's about. I get it. All these movies are coming, but then like 2021 or 2022 and
yeah.
Christmas time. I'm like, I'm not fucking waiting that long long and there's everybody's already posting meme pictures all about it. Like, oh my God, it's going to be 2020. I'm like, you understand? It's like a full fucking year. Like, we're not even at this Christmas yet. Like, I'm not even excited for The Mandalorian 3. I'll be excited a week before it comes out, but I'm not going to sit there and count my days like it's Christmas, like 365 more days. It's like, holy shit, bro, calm down. Baby Yoda's not that awesome.
No, well, I think it maybe is also the psychological factor of, you've had nothing all year. You've had to deal with terrible things, between COVID and, and all the upheaval that's happened, especially, when it comes to the US, I think, that it's finally some good news. And I think that's why people are embracing it so readily, because between, all the civil unrest that's happened, and the Black Lives Matter movement and everything that's come out of that, between the extremely troubled presidential elections, which are still not over, folks are still fighting about that.
If your life is so rough right now, where you're like, I can't wait because I at least have this one hope in 2021, The Mandalorian 3 is coming out. Bro, you got to do something. That whole time, you can't just be counting the minutes till 2021.
True. I agree with you, but I think at the same time, it's just people needed some hope.
Yeah.
They needed something positive.
They needed a new hope, is what we call it. A new
yes,
hope.
exactly. No pun intended, right?
No pun intended.
But yeah, I think that's what it's all about. I think that's why it's just that everybody's just, I said, everybody's had a pretty rough year, as you live in the States, so you know it firsthand how tough it's been. So I guess that's why, and I think people retreat to what they enjoy, and they find joy in that. And I agree with you. You still have a whole year before this stuff comes out, but I guess
it shows promise.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's kind of to sort of latch on to something happy, because as I said, between all the bad stuff that's been happening, I think that's what it is.
I think they need to find like a better way, like especially for 2021, instead of like doing like a stimulus check like they're talking about, but maybe find a way to lower prices a little bit on some stuff, because like they upped the prices during the pandemic on the cost wise of people were getting like an extra $600 of free money for staying home or for having to be home because of pandemic bonus. And I was like, fucking lettuce used to be 78 cents. It's $1.58 now. And I'm like, everything went up like 90 cents. I'm like, hang on a second, let's go back. Like, I'm still budgeting, so I know how much I'm fucking spending. An average trip to the grocery store used to cost me $25. Now it's like almost to $40. I'm like, all right, seriously.
Wow.
Like, I'm seeing that stuff add up now.
Wow. Well, that hasn't really happened over here, as in there was the whole thing of the stimulus package as well here too. But when it came to the prices going up, it was actually the contrary. They were like, people can't spend as much as they can. So there was actually a depricing of things, especially in supermarkets and what have you, for that reason.
Well, you're human over there. We're not. We're savages. We're like, hang on a second, let's charge them more. The only thing that is empty at the stores now is the $5 fucking movie bin. There's no movies in that. I used to see like, oh, Peanut Butter Falcon, or I don't know, name a movie, Taken 1, and then there's Taken 2, and then that movie with Nicolas Cage where he steals the treasure map and shit. And I'm like, look at all these movies used to be here. Not anymore. It's empty because people are just sitting at home watching movies. And I'm like, that's what Netflix and all these, that's what movies are going to turn into, is it's going to start being more streaming services instead of movie theaters.
Oh, yes. Well, even more so the whole thing now that everything has been announced that they're going to simultaneously be airing, when cinemas are open again, when theaters are open again, they'll be both on these on-demand channels and in the theater as well. And a lot of people are kind of clamoring, saying this is the death of cinema, that these big budget movies are going to be in serious trouble because folks might not go to the theater anymore and they just might watch them directly on Netflix. And which then brings such effects like what happened with Mulan on Disney Plus, where you had to pay a premium to watch Mulan because it didn't get its cinematic.
Oh my God. It's all about the extra charges. I'm tired of the extra charges.
Well, you know what? I agree with you. I think the problem, though, is how are these big budget studios going to make back their budget if people are not going to theaters? So I guess they're going that route in order to make back the money they spent.
They're going to make money off that. Like if Hulu or something, they can tell by how many people are clicking on their film. Maybe that's how they're making their money back. You know what I mean? But Netflix never I guess, gives out their information on if your thing is doing good or not. Like Joe Rogan always
Oh,
talks about, like, he's like, what's my special doing? Is it doing okay? It's like, we're happy. We're happy. It's like, what does that mean? Or is it getting views? What does that mean? It's like, just know that
true.
we're happy. It's like, you need to divulge that information because it seems like we're about to be in a world that's going to be like, a lot of times you're going to be doing these types of things at home now, especially with streaming services, which sucks because I do miss the movies at times. But I think, like, paying additionally really fucking sucks. And I think that's what life is becoming more of. Like, imagine you're getting gas at a gas pump. You pay
Yeah.
$15 to put in your tank, and 5 miles down the road it tells you, oh, here's another $5 to get that extra fuel unlocked in your tank. You're like, hang on a second, what do you
Yeah.
mean?
But I think that's the only way, because obviously if you have a sub, I mean, I'm just trying to put my head in when it comes to those who come up with this stuff, is when you come to these movies, say, I don't know, like a Wonder Woman 84, which will actually be on HBO Max over there in the States on Christmas Day. It's not, I don't think it's coming to cinemas at all. It's only going to be on directly through HBO Max, so folks are going to be able to see it on Christmas Day, and it's not even coming to the theaters in the States. How are you going to make your money? You're going to have to charge something on top of that, for example, because
Who's
obviously, yeah,
who's watching Wonder Woman 84 on Christmas Day?
I am.
Why not A Christmas Story? I feel like that's like one of the worst days to release a Christmas movie, or at
Well,
least a movie on Christmas.
you know what? Not celebrating Christmas, it's not a problem for me. But yeah, that's why I watch Wonder Woman 84.
I mean, I'm going to be at work, but at the same time, I'm still going to be watching A Christmas Story on like the one of the televisions at work or something. It's just the tradition for a lot of people over here in the States is to watch like a Christmas movie, which people give Mariah Carey shit for that Christmas song. I fucking love it. I don't care.
I agree with you, but I
Thank you.
think folks. I'm sure folks will be so psyched about Wonder Woman 84 because everybody's so excited about it. Not to mention, it's one of the big movies that everybody's been waiting for. So folks are going to watch. I agree with you. There are tons of great Christmas movies out there, and I actually watch some of them myself. But if they give me Wonder Woman on the 25th, I'm more than happy to watch it.
Maybe, like, as I was thinking, maybe why wouldn't they release it the day after Christmas? So it's the 26th where everybody would be still at home watching it. But I feel like maybe the Christmas release is a good one because maybe people are going to buy it after all their festivities are over with. So like you're home, it's the end of Christmas Day, and then you just turn on Wonder Woman 84 and you get to lull that to sleep.
I think so. I think that's probably the impetus behind it. And but it's probably going to be one of the first ones to follow this model of it's going all directly to these on-demand channels, to like HBO Max in this case, or the Disney Plus stuff. I believe the new Pixar film is also dropping directly on Disney Plus, which I believe is Soul, which will be on the 25th which will also be on Christmas Day.
They got to release a movie on like New Year's Eve or something, just on the fact of like how many people are going to be getting hammered that night where they look on HBO on demand or whatever and see a $9.99 movie and be like, that's a great buy. And then they fucking click it. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree. I will be watching the Doctor Who special on the 31st. That I know is coming.
really? That's all you're going to do on the 31st?
Oh yeah, because we can't go anywhere, can we?
Yeah, you can.
Not really. In Italy, it's going to be a lockdown. You can't go anywhere.
That's my birthday. I hope it's not a lockdown.
I don't know what to tell you, man. But over here in Italy, the festivities are going to officially be locked down. You can't go anywhere.
I'm okay with the festivities being locked down as long as I can get hammered in my house. I think it's
Well, I
okay.
mean, of course, one's going to self-medicate, obviously. But
I love the way you put that. So I actually have a movie pitch idea I want to throw at you.
go ahead.
There's a cult on a cruise ship. That's the pitch.
It's it can make for an interesting one, I suppose.
Can't go anywhere, so you have to join up. You know what I mean? It's like it's your only option.
True. Yeah, well, of course, yeah, because you're trapped in that. Yeah, and that would actually make for an interesting story, I think.
Matt
for
Damon
sure.
is the main character.
I wouldn't mind seeing Matt Damon in something new because I haven't seen him in a lot of things for a while. So that'd be kind of cool. Yeah, I dig that. I dig that idea.
And Paul Giamatti's involved.
Oh well, you have to have Paul Giamatti. I mean, he's just fantastic in everything he
He's
does.
an amazing actor, but a lot of people don't like him.
Is there a reason? I mean, has he done anything publicly
He
that he
worked
shouldn't
with
have been
M. Night
doing?
Shyamalan, and a lot of people have hate towards M. Night Shyamalan on the factor of he wrote a couple of movies that people didn't like, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Like, I'm a Green Lantern fan. I'm a Lady in the Water fan. I'm any of M. Night Shyamalan's
Are
movies
you
I
a
love.
fan of Spawn?
I saw the movie, and from reading the comics when I was a little kid, I honestly thought it was good because it's the only movie we have for Spawn.
But so you put it next to Green Lantern when it comes to quality?
Hell no, I put nothing next to the Green Lantern. It's like my all-time favorite movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm with you for the most part.
I'm about to say, I can tell in your eyes, you're like, hell no, Green Lantern's
No,
a terrible
wait a
movie.
minute. I'm with you for the most part. Okay. What I don't forgive is Parallax. Parallax is absolute garbage.
Yeah, it's like an octopus fucked a bigger octopus, and then that octopus is in space.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the same problem that Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer has. We never see Galactus.
Okay, so somebody mentioned to me, apparently they're making a new Fantastic Four series.
Yep.
The other ones weren't that bad, even though a lot of people didn't like them. I actually thoroughly enjoyed them.
The Tim Story movies were okay. I mean, as I said, the Rise of the Silver Surfer, good movie. Only major problem is the fact that you are constantly talking about Galactus. We never see Galactus. So, and it's all about Doctor Doom. So you should have kind of, the story should have probably been structured differently. Either you make it all about Doctor Doom and you forget Galactus and you just put in the Silver Surfer. But that was my big problem with that movie. It's great fun. It's really great fun. But as I said, that's the big problem with it. Also, the other big problem with that film is there is zero chemistry between Jessica Alba and Mr. Fantastic. There's more chemistry between Jessica Alba and Chris Evans.
I'm okay with the little to no contact with Jessica Alba because I have a crush on her. So I don't really want anybody having chemistry with her. If you know what I'm saying.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
But those were my major problems with those ones anyway. I mean, but yeah, I'm looking forward to new Fantastic Four films. The last one was rubbish, but hopefully the next one will be better.
The last one I was not a fan of. I thought it was cool with some of the parts to it, but I was like, I couldn't get into it as much as I could with the very, very first one that came out.
Hopefully they make a better version. You'd hope they've learned by this point to make a good one. I just hope it's not going to be what they did to Hellboy, because what they did to Hellboy is unforgivable.
Yeah, you can't beat Ron Perlman though. Okay. So what makes an Oscar? What makes a movie good? Is it the actors? Is it the filming, or is it all of it coinciding together? Because honestly,
it's a coming together of everything. It's the actors, it's the story, it's the soundtrack, it's all of these factors put in together. At least according to, in my perspective, you go ask the Academy, they have completely different opinions naturally. But because if you notice the trend when it comes to the Academy winners, the Academy loves war movies, they love tragic stories, they don't like comedies that much, and they don't like sci-fi that much. And case in point, 1977, Star Wars should have won the Oscar for Best Picture. Instead, Annie Hall won the Oscar for Best Picture. And it would have changed the world had Star Wars won the Oscar in 1977.
It seems like with movies, that's the basic timeline, is that there's always action or war movies that are really popular, or like dramas, or like kind of like heart, like, like the one you would take a girl to the movies or take your companion to the movies.
They want the gut-wrenching stories. That's what, I mean, the Academy loves that stuff. Those character-driven stories. I mean, it was already a miracle that The Shape of Water won Best Picture 2 years ago, or 2 years ago, yeah.
But then it's like, when we look at TV, a lot of the most popular stuff on TV is comedies. So it's like, it's comedy for TV, and then there's film movies that are for action.
There have been a few comedies that have won the Oscar for Best Picture, but I think it's just the Academy feels that maybe comedy is not as respectable, if you will, as other forms of entertainment. Case in point, Chaplin's films never won an Oscar. Not even The Great Dictator, which is a fantastic movie.
Exactly. Throw the Naked Gun in there. I'll put that movie up against so many movies. That movie is hilarious.
Well, if you want to join us on an episode one day to discuss The Naked Gun, Rob would be more than happy to have you to discuss that film.
I didn't know that was OJ in it. I was like, holy shit, because I saw the trial before I saw Naked Gun, and then I saw OJ, and I was like, is that wait a minute, what? And then I learned this whole backstory about OJ before the killing, and I'm like, oh, now it makes sense when he's on Twitter, like, hey, Twitter world. I was like, oh shit, that's OJ.
Yep. But also, you think of a movie like Airplane, which is considered one of the funniest movies in the history of humanity, and it didn't get anything because, as I said, comedies don't win Oscars. There are those few situations where if it's a Woody Allen comedy like Annie Hall, it will win. Or should we say the Frank Capra films? You were talking about Christmas movies. And of course, he's well known for directing It's a Wonderful Life. And Frank Capra won two of his films and they are comedies, which were It Happened One Night, which is way back when with Clark Gable. But comedies don't win Oscars, and sci-fi doesn't win Oscars. They win all the technical stuff, but they don't win the Oscars for best.
What about the Big Lebowski?
That's another huge snub. I mean, when you think of films like one of my all-time favorites, like Scarface, or you think of these kind of movies, they don't win. It's just the Academy just doesn't like these films.
It's fucking rigged.
I don't know whether it's rigged, but I think it's just that they like a certain style of movie. That's what it's all boils down to. I mean, I'm still outraged that The Color Purple didn't win the Oscar, and Out of Africa. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. I'm so sad that it didn't win. Or Black Panther, I think, should have won Best Picture, even though on the strength of the story it tells, not just because it's a superhero movie, but because of the powerful story it tells within a superhero story. Or you think about...
Do you think Black Panther's going to get a second look, like in the second one or something? Or if they create another one on the fact of maybe because the actor's not around anymore, it should win?
Well, they might give Chadwick Boseman the Oscar for Best Actor posthumously. They might do that, like they did with the chap who played the Joker in the Dark Knight trilogy, Heath Ledger. They gave him the Oscar because he died. If not, he wouldn't have gotten anything. Here's
a big one for me. Do you think that Heath Ledger was a better Joker than Joaquin Phoenix?
They're two very different Jokers.
That's what I'm saying. It's like his interpretation of it, watching it, was a way more like, I don't know, better Joker in my opinion. Like Dark Knight is me and my dad's favorite movie, but at the same time, it's like when you notice the psychological illness that needs to be played into the part of the Joker, he played it fucking perfectly. Joaquin Phoenix did.
I think, but that's the beauty also of the character of the Joker. He is so multifaceted that various versions work. Jack Nicholson's version works because it's the more comedic side of the Joker. Psychotic nonetheless, but more comedic. Then you have Heath Ledger, who is literally a psychopath, and which is another great facet of the Joker. And then you have Joaquin Phoenix's version, which focuses on the mental illness. And I think all are viable. It just depends what you're trying to do. And it's just like the Batmans. You have various types of Batmen. And, you can have your favorites, be it Michael Keaton, be it Christian Bale, be it... I think it's also what you're trying to... what story you're trying to tell. And also the fact that these characters are so versatile and adaptable to the story.
I got a good game for us to play.
Go ahead.
You know how some people, like, you look at an act or you look at a person and be like, okay, that there'd be this type of person. Like they'd be like, they'd like this drink, or they'd like this dog or something. They look like that. Mm-hmm. Let's pick some actors and let's figure out what drugs go with that person. I look at Jack Nicholson. I immediately think cocaine.
Yep. I was going to say yes.
Christian Bale. What do you think?
I would probably say weed.
Weed? Yeah. He seems like a pretty... Yeah.
Laid back guy.
Yeah. That makes sense. What about Jerry Seinfeld?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Horse trank. That dude's taking horse trank.
I would either go with that or with Speed, probably.
Oh, God, I don't think I want to see him on Speed. I already don't like Seinfeld.
Neither do I.
Thank you. I'm glad we can...
Because it's barely known over here in Italy. I've watched it because being bilingual and being multicultural, I know of Seinfeld. They're Italians who have no idea what Seinfeld is.
That's a good thing. Maybe I need to move to Italy.
You have a great time over here, Rob.
I probably would enjoy it. Honestly, it's getting a little bit bland over here.
Well, they say we have the best food and the best women. So I mean, I don't know what else we need to do to convince you.
I think the women, in my opinion, would be better in Scotland. I like the accent.
Sure. Well, I can't blame you for that either. Yeah.
Is Scarlett Johansson Scottish?
Nope. She's American. She's half American and half Swedish and half American.
Then how does she play a Russian so well?
Go figure.
That's what I
But
don't
she
understand.
doesn't even play a Russian with an accent. But that's another story.
She strikes me as like a cosmopolitan type of girl.
Well, I mean, because in there you also have, I think, the Middle Eastern blood as well, because she is of Jewish heritage as well. So there is probably the Middle Eastern thing as well in her.
I meant like the drink cosmopolitan.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Yeah. See, I'm still thinking. That's how I make my movie decisions. I look at the actor and I'm like, what would he drink? What would he do as a drug? Like I look at Rob
Okay.
Lowe and I'm like, Rob Lowe obviously loves kamikazes. Like, remember that old school drink?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I
Who?
think that would probably work. Yeah.
What about Tim Allen's a Bloody Mary man?
Tim
Yeah.
Allen, I think Bloody Marys, or I'm thinking just wine. I see him as a wine guy. Like
Back
those
in,
more sophisticated red wines.
I'll never forget when the movie Zoom came out. I actually really enjoyed that movie, even though a lot of people hated that one too. But I remember I read a book about him. He used to do a lot of coke back in the day, and he got arrested and did time.
True. No, I mean, well, to me, he'll always be Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah, they're making a new one, aren't they?
Yep, I'm concerned yet happy when it comes to the next Toy Story.
Why?
I mean, because I was already concerned when Toy Story 4 came out. I said 3 was enough. You've had a perfect
Wrap up.
franchise. End it, yeah, exactly, or rather, end it on a high note. And I was so worried that the fourth would be terrible. Luckily, it was a fantastic story and a great movie. This next one, I believe, I don't know if it's actually going to be a Toy Story 5. I think it's actually going to be a Buzz Lightyear origin story, which is going to be interesting. That I'm interested in.
When's it coming out?
That I'm not sure about. I mean, because I know that, as you were mentioning, Disney mentioned a slew of stuff during their meeting the other day, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a couple of years from now. I don't
Yeah,
even
somebody
think it's
said 2025, and I'm like, what the fuck? Can we get something in the next coming year besides like waiting for like The
exactly.
Mandalorian? I want to see some good movies get released soon. Honestly, I want to see more budget put into like better like
Well, Soul
sitcoms
is
or
dropping on Disney Plus. That apparently should be cool.
well, I'm
That's the
looking
next Pixar one.
I'm looking for like a not maybe not a good movie series, but a good TV series. Like not Game of Thrones. I never got into that, but like something where
Me
like
either.
I want something that's going to capture my attention with like movie quality stuff, where it's like how The Walking Dead was for the first 3 seasons. You
Sure.
were
I mean, but
interested
are
in
you
it.
are you a superhero guy at all? I mean, do you enjoy any of the superhero TV shows?
Some say I look like Tom Holland, but I don't want to see him on TV.
I was going to say the likeness is rather uncanny. It's weird to hear Tom Holland with an American accent. So I was like, come on, get rid
Yeah,
of the
he's
Italian,
British. I
the
didn't know
American accent.
that.
Yeah,
Actually,
oh yes,
I
super Brit.
I saw that on a video on Facebook, and I was like, I actually might not hate you as much now that I know you're British.
Yep, he's a Brit. Yeah, the second Spider-Man, second British Spider-Man that we've gotten. But what I think, I mean, TV series, I have so many to watch. I don't really sort of because between all the Disney stuff that's dropping, and also what else is that? Well, and all the superhero stuff in general. Because I watch all the CW stuff as well. Big fan of that stuff. And also the non-CW stuff. The Boys, love the Boys. That's getting a third season. Doom Patrol. I mean, there's
That's what I'm
tons.
excited for. I watched all the clips for that because I'm a big Brendan Fraser fan.
Right.
But I haven't seen an episode of Doom Patrol, but I really like how dark that thing is. I really think it shows superheroes in a different light that a lot of people don't
Oh,
really get to see.
I agree. If you are looking for the off the beaten path superhero story, Doom Patrol is definitely for you. And as the Boys would be for you as well, if you're looking for something completely different from your classic superhero fare. The Boys and Doom Patrol are definitely, if you haven't checked them out, Rob, definitely check them out.
I'm just a big fan of like I don't know. I like the cursing that goes behind it. I like DC's a little bit darker. I'm a Marvel fan. Obviously, it's a lot of my favorite superheroes come from there. But DC just has more gravity to the situation. I think. I think it makes it more like a little bit like, hey, it's not just for kids. It's for adults too. Like Marvel can kind
True.
of do that, but it kind of sticks on the lines of like this is still kind of a kids thing. Like PC a little bit here.
Well, yeah, also because I guess now that Disney owns Marvel pretty much, they kind of are keeping an eye on their audience in that sense as well, so they can't push too many boundaries. DC, the latest movies have kind of been hit and miss for me personally. I really enjoyed the recent ones. The last few were good. I thought Shazam was a good film. I thought
Yeah.
Aquaman was a good film. Wonder Woman was a great movie. The Batman ones, I was a little bit disappointed with. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, could have been done better. Man of Steel could have been done better. Justice League, absolutely terrible. But yeah,
It's because they
I
tossed out all that Ben Affleck money and then they couldn't afford to finish the rest of the film.
well, not just that. I mean, the story is rather threadbare as well. Also, I mean, if you put Justice League up against the Avengers, even Age of Ultron, it just doesn't. Pass muster in that sense. Avengers trounces Justice League any day of the week.
It's just hard because when you pick an actor, especially when you're picking a superhero actor, you can't just switch off into another one. You know what I mean? It's got to be like that guy's fit for that role. Like Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man.
Oh
So
yes.
you cannot pick another Iron Man. You just have to go off onto a different timeline where it's like, this is 10 years later. This is
Mhm.
before. This is that. It was so hard for me. Like during Endgame was when I finally was like, all right, Chris Evans, you're not the Human Torch to me anymore. You're Captain America. It
Right.
took all those movies to get me there when I see him like pick up the hammer and I'm like, oh shit, you are Captain America. But then he ends up getting old and passing it over to the other guy. I'm like, we can't keep doing the same movie remakes and then changing actors. I think that's why it's so hard for me to stick in with Spider-Man. I do not like Tom Holland, but I think he is the best representation of what the Spider-Man actually is. But I'm a big Tobey Maguire fan because he was the first.
True. There are comic book fans who will disagree with you when it comes to that because they feel that Tom Holland is too young and the character of Spider-Man is not true to the original Stan Lee, Steve Ditko stuff, and that Tobey Maguire is more true to that. And so I know there are comic book fans who are not particularly happy with that departure. But I personally, I enjoy what Tom Holland is doing. I think he's doing a great job with it. When it comes to the Marvel stuff, what I appreciate about the Marvel stuff is they're deciding to move on. They're not making the same things over and over again. Hopefully, Tony Stark is dead and gone. Hopefully, Captain America is dead and gone, and we move on because you can't keep repeating it. I think it also gets boring after a while if we have the same people. Also, it's a challenge for the people at Marvel Studios to see if they can have the same success that they had with those characters as they will in the next phase.
And it kind of leads into a whole nother thing. Like if you keep beating the dead horse, I would say, or keep repeating
Yeah.
films, it ends up like Tony Stark's death. If you make another movie with Tony or you make another movie about Iron Man, pick a different actor, it's gonna like lose credit to the actual death. That death scene of
Yeah.
Iron Man was like, I think it hit a lot of people. Like you saying that like Tony Stark's dead and gone, people are gonna be like, no, he's not. Like there's that big uproar because people were so emotionally attached to that character. I mean, from the very first one where he's jumping out of an airplane and it's playing Back in Black, like it's
Yeah.
or Iron Maiden, for instance. Like they played a lot of that stuff in his playlist on his movies and stuff, and it's like that's what hooked a lot of the older people in.
Yes, I think it makes sense. And plus, leave them laughing or leave them crying, if you
Yeah.
will, because if you then bring it back, like you said, it loses its the pathos that you created with that. If you bring back Iron Man, it's like, so we cried because you died for nothing. You lose everything, the emotionally charging stuff that you put in that film, it loses it completely. So I think rather than give in to the fans saying we want more RDJ playing Iron Man, look at it in the bigger picture. You want to watch RDJ play Iron Man? Go back and watch the Infinity Saga. We're now moving on to something else. And I'm sure if they know what they're doing, you will be just as endeared to the new characters as you were to the previous ones.
Who would be your all-time favorite actor, and who would be your all-time least favorite?
What, to play Iron Man?
to any movie.
Oh, in general. So like
Yes.
my all-time favorite act. Oh, that's a very loaded question, Rob.
Like one,
Especially when it comes to
if it's just coming out, if it's you see a preview for it, like we're seeing that.
also, for example, I see a trailer and I'm going to know that that actor's in it. It was like a draw for me to go and see that movie. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? Oh, well, I have a few to be honest, because I mean, I'm a big fan of like the classic actors. So, but I'm trying to think really who that kind of really stands out. Well, I mean, I would go an Al Pacino or Robert De Niro, really, because those are like my go-tos. They've always been my go-tos.
Even the Happy Grandpa movies that he's in.
Okay, we can forget those ones.
He had one that's coming out where he's going against his grandkids, and I'm like, oh man, what happened?
No, I know that is pretty sad. I will agree with you. Or anything that Giancarlo Esposito is in, I love that guy to death. Um, or as I said, I kind of tend to gravitate more towards the classic actors. Should we say the new blood is good, but I don't know. I guess maybe being of a certain age, I'm more attached to a certain class of actors, if you will. My least favorite. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm about to say, I think I enjoyed Robert De Niro more after I heard a podcast of a guy that back in the day when Robert De Niro was first acting, he was, I think it was like a line for one of the most popular movies he was in. I don't remember if it
Mhm.
was like Goodfellas or something. I forgot what he's in some famous mafia movie, Robert De Niro is. But there's a dude that was on a podcast talking about he got a call and it was from his booker saying, hey, somebody's going to call you in a minute about this position and opening up in a script. And he's like, all right, sure. He answers the phone. It's Robert fucking De Niro. And he goes, hey, this is Robert De Niro. I really liked your work and what you did, but I would like to, maybe you come in and do a recording session or something like that. And he goes, yeah, all right, sure. Go fuck yourself, and hangs up the phone. Dude calls him right back and says, no, seriously, man. I'm Robert De Niro, and I'm calling you to get you onto this film because I saw some of your work in a recording, and I would like to get you on my film. He goes, all right, dude, it's not fucking funny. Go fuck yourself, and hangs up the phone. The dude knew the restaurant the guy was at, went down there. Robert De Niro did. He goes, nobody fucking hangs up on me on the phone. Like, comes into him in person. He goes, it was the craziest thing. But like, once I heard that story, I was like, all right, whether it's true or not, I fucking love Robert De Niro because of that. Because I
Oh,
like
yes.
the audacity of like going and getting an actor. Joey Diaz talked about it. I don't know if you know who Joey Diaz is, but
I
he played on The Longest Yard, the one with Adam Sandler, where he was laying on the ground. He's like, can of corn and I'll be all right. Can of corn. Well,
okay.
he's a
I have
famous.
to be honest. I'm not very familiar with Adam Sandler's work because I'm not a fan of Adam Sandler's.
Why? I was going to ask you this question. Why do
I
people hate
find him
Adam Sandler?
I find his comedy incredibly irritating.
Because it's like slapstick comedy.
Yep, I prefer dialogue comedy compared to slapstick.
I think a lot of people hate him because he uses all the same people for his movies. But I'm just like,
But there's
it's
nothing wrong with that. I mean,
yeah.
how many directors are loyal to their actors?
That's
Look
what
at
I'm.
look,
Well, not even that. I'm saying it's a perfect template. It's a perfect template. You did a movie, it went well. So get the same people that the same chemistry is going to be
Well,
good, and get them in the next one.
exactly. What exactly? And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you're loyal to your friends, and as you said, if you have a good product, why not? And but to go back to your question, that it would be a bigger draw for me when it comes to a director than an actor because I'm a huge fan of Tarantino. If I know Tarantino is directing a film, I'll go watch it.
Because all of
That's all
his
I
movies
need.
are gold. All of his movies are
Love
like
them all.
perfect.
No matter what anybody says, I love them all.
I don't know anybody that's really complained about a Tarantino film because Pulp Fiction's amazing.
Well, I
Django's
know
amazing.
folks weren't happy with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I know some folks weren't too happy with that one, and they weren't too happy with Death Proof, and they
I
weren't
think
too
they were
happy.
upset about the fact that Bruce Lee was shown in a bad light, but I'm like, Bruce Lee was a bit of a cocky guy.
I think that might have been part of it. Because I know a lot of folks that weren't happy with those ones. They weren't happy with the recent ones. I loved them all. I mean, even the Hateful Eight. I know the Hateful Eight wasn't so as popular as folks thought it would be. I love the Hateful
It was
Eight.
a good movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but to me, Tarantino's my go-to guy. If he ever decides to direct a TV show, I'm watching it regardless of what it's about because I know Tarantino's directing it.
What about would you say least favorite actor or
His
actress?
favorite actor, actress. Oh, well, Adam Sandler for one. Just
Man, you
can't
can't
stand the
knock
guy.
Hubie Halloween, dude. That was a funny movie.
I'm sorry, I just don't like his comedy. He just aggravates me. I don't know why. I just look at the guy and I feel aggravated.
When he threw that soup container and then it was stuck to like a rappel line that went right back into his hand, I died for 15 minutes. I couldn't stop laughing so hard.
Well, yeah, but as I said, he's just not my kind of thing. Or late, should we say? No, because he's kind of hit and miss. Jim Carrey in certain things I like, in other ones I can't stand him in. But yeah, I'd probably have to say Adam Sandler's probably my least favorite actor.
All right, my would be an actress. It'd be Sandra Bullock. Not a fan
She
of her.
doesn't get much work though these days, does she?
She has resting bitch face. I don't like that. Like at all. And then my favorite actor would have to be Mel Gibson. I think he's fucking tremendous because he's in my all-time favorite movie, Signs.
Yeah, you know what? It's hard to separate the man from the actor though sometimes for me.
Yeah. Or you just don't like what he did.
Yeah, not a fan of his kind of coming out stuff of the comments that he made. I was not particularly happy with. So, but one
agree.
has to separate the art from the artist. I do get that.
Yeah, I try and look past that because mostly I don't research into people's personal stuff like that when it gets like when they get it's their own personal views. I'm more looking at the actor. Like in Signs, he was amazing. Braveheart, he was amazing. I just think he has a talent there. But like it makes sense, man. Like Tom Cruise just got a lot of shit recently about screaming at a bunch of people for not wearing masks or doing something on set. And it was like he got a lot of love from it. People were like, thank God Tom Cruise is on our side. Then he also got a lot of hate from it for being so rude to people. So I'm like, I just don't like him because of the Scientology aspect.
No, totally. Well, I mean, it's like you think of legends like Bing Crosby, considered one of the greatest kind of actors and singers of all time. Apparently a horrible human being, but one tries to kind of see past that, or rather, once again, separate the artist from the art. Or it's like you have a favorite author. You find out they're incredible racists, or they're anti-Semitic, or they have this kind of stuff, but you can't, I suppose, separate the fact that they created some great things, but maybe human-wise, they are horrible people. So I think one has to try. It's hard as hell, but one has to try and separate those two aspects of the person. So they might not be your favorite person, but you do recognize they are good at what they do.
I fucking hope Tom Holland's like kicking puppies on the side or some shit. I really do. Gives me even more reason just to not like him.
Well, it's like Tom Hanks. I've yet to hear bad stuff about Tom Hanks. I'm just waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, I'm feeling like I'm sensing it, dude, that there's something weird going to come out. Like he's involved in something.
Yeah, because so far because I love so many things that he's been in. And I'm just waiting for that moment where they're like, oh, yes, he sexually assaulted some woman or he's a pedophile or anything like.
That's my route that I'm going with is that one. It's like Mr. Rogers and everything. I was like, oh, I'm telling you, it's like the same dude. He's the actual representation of Mr. Rogers to me. But, one actor who's fallen from grace, who my opinion has kind of improved on based on his climb back up to the top. And I think that's Shia LaBeouf. And then I see recently in articles he's getting Me Too'd right now. I'm like, dude, that Peanut Butter Falcon movie was fucking heartwarming. And watching that documentary about his life, I watched a documentary about Jennifer Aniston's life too. That shit, like you improve on the person's view, oh my God, this is a really talented person that has been through a lot of shit.
Oh, totally. Well, I mean, it makes me think of, in fact, I actually was wondering your opinion. Speaking of this, what are your thoughts on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation?
What, that he beats his wife?
That he said, so her side says that he beat her. The other side says that she did the most horrendous things to him and he's the victim of abuse.
I think he's probably the victim of abuse, in my opinion, only because I've heard so many stories from comedians, and Doug Stanhope, who's a famous comedian, is actually friends with Johnny Depp and says that she would lie and do all this stuff to try and, get him arrested and take a lot of his money.
Yeah, because I mean, the kind of horror stories or rumors that have circulated the internet when it comes to Amber Heard are multiple. Among these, apparently, there's a story that goes that she took a shit in his bed.
Took a shit in his what?
In his bed. Apparently, that's one of the rumors that are flying around. And I mean, seeing everything that's been going on lately, I kind of tend to be, on Johnny Depp's side this moment. But I mean, as I said, he's not getting any more work. Granted, he got fully paid for the Fantastic Beasts film, even though he's in one scene and that's it, but he's going to be getting full pay. Amber Heard will be coming back for Aquaman 2, regardless of how many people are continually carrying on the crusade of we don't want her in Aquaman 2.
I think people want to complain a lot. I don't know. If I see a movie, if it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. I don't really tend to like shit on a movie a lot. Like one of my all-time favorite movies that gets shit on is Norbit. Everyone hates that movie
Right.
with Eddie Murphy, but I think it's pretty good. It's one dude playing a bunch of different things. They're just movies
No,
that
no, but but here it's more a question of the person, of Amber Heard being a horrible person who should never work in Hollywood again.
So what exactly do people hate him for?
Well, no, everybody hates Amber Heard because of the fact that the terrible thing that she slandered Johnny Depp and the fact that she took a shit in his bed and all this kind of thing. So
Well, if she
whereas
did that, I mean, shit, man. Sometimes you get pissed off and you got shit in somebody's bed. I don't know. I don't
who
know.
doesn't do that when you're angry at somebody, right?
Sometimes when I poop, I shit. I mean, sometimes when I'm angry, I shit. I guess I don't know. It's a concept of like, it's a movie. You're judging. If you judge a person that much, like one of the craziest things, and one of the, I guess, here's another actor, not actor, but here's another person that fell from grace, Michael Vick.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people hated the shit out of him for what he did to those dogs. My opinion approved of him when I found out that instead of taking a bailout or saying bankruptcy, where he didn't have to pay back all those fines, he personally worked his ass off and paid back all of those fines, making sure he paid back every debt. When any other person would have took bankruptcy and been like, guess I don't have to pay that money back. No, he made sure he paid off everything. And he said, that's because that's what I have to do.
Oh, well, totally. I mean, but more power to him in that sense.
Exactly. But
It's
your opinion improves of him after,
sure.
even though he did all those horrible things, but finding out that he felt sorry and then he started doing those things to try and make sure he could pay back all the things, all the horrors that he committed. I was like, that improves my opinion of him.
I totally agree. I guess there are certain things that one, as I said, one has trouble with, because you mentioned Mel Gibson, for example. When I kind of heard the whole sort of, like I said, very racist and anti-Semitic things that he was spouting out, not to mention his father was a major anti-Semite, it's kind of hard for me being Jewish to appreciate Mel Gibson, if you see where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it comes from a place of like when you're raised that way and then you think that way, you just take it on into the day. But I think he's a lot better now. I don't think he's like that how he was before. I mean, I have some Jewish heritage, but I don't go around saying I'm Jewish or anything. I look at it like you gotta, you, people are evolving constantly, man. They're gonna go with the times because times are changing so quick. I mean, even Rob Lowe talked about it when he was talking about how much movie credits, to be a top show now is under a million shows or under a million viewers is a
Mhm.
top show. When back in the day, his show that was rated like last, I think it was like the sixth channel or something like that. There was only 6 channels, had like 19 million people watching it, and it was considered a bad show. So I'm like, we're evolving. Eventually, on his show, they ended up bringing in a black family, and that was their neighbors. Times are changing, and people are going to evolve with those times. And if you don't evolve to that way of thinking, if you're going to consider being racist still, if you're going to consider being all these things still, then you're going to get left in the dust. You're not going to find work. You need to go progress further and forward. That's why, like, when
What
cancel culture becomes a thing, I go, it's stupid. Don't cancel people on the concept of if you don't think like that and you think what they're doing is wrong, don't laugh at it. If a comedian cracks a joke that's not right, don't laugh at it. Eventually, his material is not going to work because no one's laughing and he's going to evolve from the situation. It's kind of like
mm,
Bill Burr tossed that idea out. He goes, all you're going to do when you cancel that person is they're going to go home and they're going to tell their family all the shit that now they have to go find money. They're going to have to probably lose their home, all these different things. And it's just going to create anger. And then it's going to breed more hatred to hate the same thing that dude hated or cracked a joke on. So don't cancel, just don't laugh. And eventually that evolved thinking, you'll have to catch up. You know what I mean? Like everybody's
I,
already evolved.
I agree. I mean, I do agree. It's just that I wonder, if you find out certain things about people, it will obviously, change your opinion of these people, especially if, as I said, they say things which are, not the nicest. Well, I mean, to go to your point of cancel culture, you think of all the heat that Gone with the Wind came under recently. or the Aunt Jemima stuff, or the Uncle Ben stuff, or all that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't think one should ban Gone with the Wind because of what the story it tells. But I do see where you can say, look, this
Yeah.
is the kind of story it's telling, but it's wrong. You shouldn't believe that black people are slaves and that they're inferior to the white people and all this kind of thing. You should put it into context. You shouldn't ban it, but you should put it into context.
It should
And
definitely be looked at like how far we've progressed. You know what I mean? How we don't
correct.
think like people were upset about DuckTales. They said that it was like, it was getting a lot of shit. They wanted it taken down off Disney. And that was a big thing when Disney Plus came out and they released a lot of those old shows because Disney Plus was like, let's hurry up and put it on network. And next thing you know, people are watching it like, this is fucking horrible. But that was the time period back then. Don't translate it to now. Look at that and be like, wow, look how far we've come that we don't think this
Sure.
way anymore.
You have every right to criticize it because, as Lord knows we do on my podcast, when it comes to certain films, the way black people were portrayed way back when, of course we come down on it, and of course we point it out, but at the same time you do say it was, the sign of the times, or it was the way it was done. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you look at books like Oliver Twist, where the character of Fagin is referred to as the Jew in the book. And it's clearly because a lot of people at the time were incredibly anti-Semitic. Unfortunately, people still are today. But
Walt Disney.
it's yeah, that's but here and the Walt Disney thing is an interesting story because he apparently donated to his local synagogue, apparently, and he had a lot of Jewish workers. The problem was when he invited a member of the Nazi party to Disney Studios. That was the big problem because she was a major director in Germany who was obviously pro-Nazi. Any sort of Nazi propaganda you've seen, which they actually have taken off from YouTube, is directed by her. She came to the States. But hey, how many Americans at the time, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, but how many Americans at the time were fans of Adolf Hitler? Tons of people. Before America entered the war, there were so many people who were pro-Nazi. So it does not surprise me.
I just want to say that taking it back to the beginning of our episode where I said I had a crazy day,
Yeah.
that same episode, the person also spoke to the ghost of Walt Disney and told me it was all a lie. So apparently his head's not frozen somewhere as well, which I asked. I had to ask that. But it's a crazy times that we're living in, man. We don't know what the future is going to be like. I think everybody's still waiting for the next Avatar. Honestly, I'm afraid if the next Avatar comes out because that's one movie that caused severe amount of depression in people based on what the world of Pandora looked like compared to Earth. Notice how much man-made destruction has destroyed it. Really caused a lot of kind of depression with people. So I'm like, it's really weird to see how passionate some people can be about movies and how some just kind of slip under the radar.
Well, true. But it's also curious how many movies ring true today. Case in point, oddly enough, to go back to the weird things that were going on, I decided to watch do a mini marathon of the Da Vinci Code films. Because I'd only seen the Da Vinci Code. I had not seen Angels and Demons, and I had not seen Inferno. So I watched it, and I got to Inferno. I was like, wait a minute. This is today. This is COVID. This is crazy. Because have you seen Inferno?
I
By
haven't. I've
the
seen only Da Vinci's Code.
Okay, so obviously it's once again you have Langdon is the protagonist, of course, who was also the protagonist played by Tom Hanks in Da Vinci Code. Here, the premise, I won't spoil it in case you want to watch it. The premise is the WHO, i.e. the World Health Organization, is looking around for this virus, which has the goal, which has been created by this billionaire to wipe out 50% of the population because the world is overpopulated. And this obviously came out even before Endgame, but the thing is, it's so kind of creepy because it shows you maybe where all the conspiracy theories spawned from of the WHO is organized when it is in on the COVID thing, and it's a controlled thing to eliminate a certain percentage of the population because the world is overpopulated. And if you watch Inferno, it will creep you out because of that reason. I was watching, I was like, wow, now I can see why people hate the World Health Organization so much.
Spoiler alert. Shit, man.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I just read a book like not even a week ago about how a dude wrote a book called the world's not overpopulated, that he thinks we can fit I think, was it 1 billion people in the United States? And I'm like, what
Hmm.
the fuck? Like, we're barely struggling at the numbers we have now, but it's like this idea of like everyone should have a free place or everyone should have this. I'm like, I get that mentality, but it's
Hmm.
not possible. The world is kind of overpopulated on some shit. We need our space. People do, you need to be not on top of each other 24/7.
True. Not to mention, of course, the natural resources are finite because the fact that also we're destroying a lot of the natural resources we have. So there is the argument of people obviously will keep breeding, so more people will be born. Granted, okay, folks will die too, but you might get to the point where your resources don't match the number of people that you have living on the planet, which has been a concern of folks. And that's why these theories have kind of come out that maybe this pandemic is a controlled thing to get rid of a certain number of people in order to keep the rest of the world going, kind of arbitrarily killing people off
Why,
so that
why would you say that? There's so many people listening that are conspiracy theorists right now that are like, oh my God, he said it. It's like, oh, Jesus, here we go.
folks, I don't buy into that, but I'm just saying that's the kind of crazy stuff you have. Look, you guys have things like QAnon going on over there.
Oh
So
my
I'm sure.
God, don't bring that up as well. Now they're really losing their shit. Ah, fuck, man.
Well, I'm just saying that's the kind of crazy conspiracy stuff you guys have going on. So would not surprise me that folks believe literally anything you tell them.
I'll entertain the idea of it, but dude, wow. Just the QAnon thing got me. So fascinating. I think it's just like I said, it's people looking for a spotlight and people looking for a way to take down things that are over exaggerated. Same thing with climate control reasons. Um, I don't think climate change isn't fake. It's not fake. It's real, but it's not happening at the levels that the media shows it as. There's a lot of things that are changing. They make it over dramatic because the best way to make something over dramatic for you to focus in on it.
Well, of course, the media will sensationalize. It's its job to
Yeah.
sensationalize. They're not
So
going to sell papers. People are not going to watch if you don't make it
it's the same
super.
thing with coronavirus. You thought that it was going to be like Thanos snapping his fingers and half the population died. It wasn't like that. And now people in America are getting vaccines right now, which I'm not pro for, only because I've seen I Am Legend and I'm going to wait a couple months for that vaccine just because I don't want to turn into one of those zombies that are only come out at night. That's fucking scary shit. But like I said, it's life is more like a movie than we know it. And from you probably know that just from watching so many movies that there's a lot of things that are like, holy shit, this could happen. This couldn't happen. This could happen. This couldn't happen.
Well, they do say, I guess, reality is stranger than fiction. So there is that. There is that for sure. Um, but I do, the whole COVID thing. I mean, living in Italy, we have seen some major tragedies. I mean, I'm in the northern part of Italy. I'm in Milan, and in some nearby cities. Not to go on to too much of a grim note, but actually seeing these military trucks carting the dead out on a constant basis from during the first wave, it really really hit me. And so I hope that anybody who's listening out there does take it seriously, because it is a real thing. People have died. I actually, my parents have actually lost quite a few friends because of COVID. So I'm just putting it out that it is a real thing.
Yeah, the idea that it's fake is stupid to me, but I think it's just you got to take care of yourself too. This is a big health wake up as well when it comes to how you're
Totally,
eating, drinking, and all these things and taking care of yourself too. And plus,
totally.
depression, man. It's a thing, when you're locked down for so long, your body wants to give up as much as your mind is giving up.
Sure. No, I agree. It's just that I shake my head, Rob, when I hear of people who are like, oh, COVID doesn't exist and it's a made up theory and all
You,
this kind of
it's
stuff.
you just pee on their leg. That's all you got to do is pee on their leg. Like you're peeing on
I
me. I know.
suppose,
I know.
one just kind of has to, walk away and just, not associate with these people. But it just kind of just blows my mind that after so much that has happened, there are still folks who are in major denial about it.
People are going to deny things all the time. But you know what? I'm not denying. I'm going to go to Italy when we're able to travel, and you're going to take me out for a slice, my friend.
Oh, hey, consider it done. Consider it done. You ever come by Milan? I'll be more than happy there to show you around, Rob.
Well, Nick, you've given me enough of your time, brother. Please promote where people can find your podcast, both of them, and where people can find your Instagram, Twitter, anything you want to promote.
Okay, I'll try and keep this as brief as possible. So, for any of you country music lovers out there, I do also host a whiskey and cigarettes show where we play traditional country, today's country, and everything else in between. For more information about that and where to tune in, you can visit our website. That's whiskeyandcigarettesshow.com. Podcast wise, as we mentioned, I do host Happiness and Darkness, the superhero movie podcast, where we talk about all the superhero movies from Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image, and more. If you'd like to join us on there and discuss your favorite superhero movie, you can send me an email at happinessindarknesshow@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, I do host, together with Zan Sprouse and Rachel Frend, Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, where we discuss all the Best Picture winners from 1927's wings to present day. If you would like to join us and discuss your favorite Best Picture winner, you can email us at goldstandardoscars@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook as Gold Standard the Oscars podcast or on Twitter at Oscars Gold.
Holy shit. Take a breath, my man, and take a bow. That was perfect. You literally did that like in one breath. I was like, holy crap. We're going once, going twice. I was like, yes.
Well, it comes from having been a DJ for so long, Rob. As I know you come from a long line of DJs and radio personalities. So, as I said, that's where you get it from. You learn how to.
Red Bull is definitely in the arsenal. I can tell you that.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. Fantastic. And I'm so happy to have come on here. You're a great guy. You how can I put it, direct the conversation really, really well, so I think you should possibly consider a career in radio yourself, my friend.
As long as I can still talk about poop, that's a career I want to be in, my friend. Well, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.